About a week ago, I went out and took some photos that I'm pretty happy with. For quite a while now, I've actually been a bit dissatisfied with the photos that I've been taking. It's not like I don't like my photos or I'm unhappy with them, it's more that I just know that I could be creating better stuff. I think it's because I've not been creating the work that I would like to, and it's been like that for quite some time now. Every now and again, I've created a piece of work that I've, really liked, and it's sort of what I want to create, or like what I want my work to be known for. But for the most part, I've just been taking photos of like everyday stuff, and that hasn't been any different recently. And the work that I want to create is of interesting, quirky, or unique characters. Whether that be because they have an interesting hobby, job, or look about them, or just an interesting story. Whatever it is, I just want to find some interesting people and show off what makes them stand out to me. I'd love for my work to be pretty much entirely that, for what I'm known for, but I can't really do that if I'm just taking photos of everyday things. But I actually managed to get out and create some work around someone that I think is extremely interesting. But just about a week ago, I went on a trip to North Wales as I love the area, and now that I don't live too far from it, I want to go there every chance I can get. It was a pretty normal trip, very overcast, classic Wales weather. I was surprised that it wasn't chucking it down with rain, but it's been really dry up north for some reason. It's just been like no rain for the past 3 weeks, and Wales was no different. But me and Jen were walking through some valleys, not expecting too much to find, but we were just really enjoying, going on a walk through an area that is amazing as this. And after about an hour of walking on different trail signs, going through woodland, going through fields, crossing streams and doing all of that stuff, me and Jen found this pretty unassuming trail sign that seemed to just lead to nothing. We decided to, give it a go and see where it led, and it actually went across a field and into some woodland area. After getting to the woodland area, we had to cross this bridge that was I can't even call it a bridge. It was just some old planks that had clearly been quite rotted and gotten very wet from the stream below. But they seemed sturdy enough, so we crossed them, and we got to the other side, which was just basically covered in apple trees. But over the tops of these apple trees, Jen actually spotted something that we were a bit confused about, since we thought we were just in a woodland area. And what she saw was what looked like a tower, and like a castle tower, which was very strange. To our knowledge, there wasn't any castles around that area, apart from on the coast. Other than that, there was nothing near us apart from just some mountains, some valleys and fields and woodland. We rushed over to check it out because we were just so intrigued, and we quickly found out that it was an abandoned church, just in this woodland field apple tree area. It was very strange. But it was the best photo opportunity that I had all day, so I started shooting. And while I was snapping my first few photos, Jen noticed that there was chickens round the corner, and as soon as she said to me, "There's chickens," we heard someone saying, "What are you doing?" It turned out the church wasn't abandoned. It was owned by this guy that came out of the dark, dingy door of the church looking like some side quest character about to offer us a reward if we go and collect something for him. Not wanting to be in trouble, we quickly explained that we were just, following a trail, and we ended up there, and I thought I'd just take some photos because we thought, we found an abandoned church. This guy then introduced himself as Dave Chapman, and basically just informed us that the church wasn't abandoned, it was his property, and he actually uses it as a workshop for his archaeological work. Immediately after he said that, my ears pricked up and I was just like, I can get a story here. I can find out something really cool about this guy. Already he's very cool. He has a church that's a workshop that he does archaeological stuff in. Amazing already. So I was like, right, I need to get some, photos here and see what I can find. So I asked question after question and he answered all of them. And I think he was actually quite excited to just hear someone else nerding out about his work, because I know that whenever someone talks to me about photography, I immediately nerd out, even if that person doesn't really know anything about photography. I actually think that's one of the best parts, then I can try and teach them something, and I think this guy sort of felt the same when I was asking questions about archaeology and history and all that, because I'm a little bit of a history nerd. I'll try and keep this as short as possible because I feel like I'd be here forever if I really tried to explain what he told me. But basically, Dave recreates Bronze Age artifacts for museums and organizations that request them. You know, if they are excavating somewhere and they find this artifact, he can take a casting and create a replica of it in the same way that they would create the art, like create the actual things that they made. It's really strange and really cool. Just in his workshop, we saw swords, statues, different pieces of just like random, like ancient equipment that I think he had made. I don't think it was the actual thing, but I think it's, you know, stuff that he had basically made a replica of that he had found in the past. And it was just insane to see, and I'll actually show you guys this in a little bit. He has also worked with people before literally building villages of ancient Bronze Age settlements, which is just crazy. Like, how cool is that? Like, he had the photos to show us and everything, and me and Jen were just sat there like, we have just stumbled across someone that is just like insanely cool and so interesting. And he's just out in the middle of the woods in a church. Like, what? That was another thing. He also like helped uncover the mines that, like the Bronze Age mines in North Wales, which proved that there were settlements there for like thousands and thousands of years to like what was previously fought. It's just insane. There is so much to explain, but I feel like I'd just be here forever just trying to, like, you know, get it across on how insane this guy is and how amazing his career is. But anyway, we talked more about his work and how at the age of 10 he was metal detecting and found a Bronze Age axe that rewrote history. It was previously thought that the mines in that area were used up to like a certain point, but then finding that axe was basically evidence that the mines were at least 1,000 years older than what was previously thought, and he discovered that at 10 years old. He was just meant to be an archaeologist. We also talked about so much more stuff, and this is probably one of the best days of photography that I've ever had. But not because I got loads and loads of amazing photos or anything, but just because I had a really good time talking to someone and basically finding out stuff about them and letting them teach me something while also creating work about that person. I just love doing that. It's so cool. While talking and giving us a tour of the workshop, which was, you know, in a church, so we were just walking around this church that had loads of workbenches and just chairs and furnaces everywhere. It was really cool. I actually was snapping away at a few photos, including one of, I think it was some ore that Dave found that had previously been mined by someone thousands of years ago, that he had found that you know there was evidence of it being mined, and he has that in his collection. That is just crazy. I also got another photo of what I think was the traditional process of separating metals. I'm not entirely like 100% sure on, like, you know, what it actually was, as I can't really remember. It's been over a week. I didn't really write anything down. But yeah, it was just really cool to see, and literally his place was like a museum. I also ended up getting rid of a few photos, which I kind of wish I didn't, since I feel like they would have just made this story a little bit better. I'll try and see if they are in the recycling bin on my PC, as it would be good to find them since they do give a bit more context that this is in a church. Like, they're not amazing photos by any means, but I think it just adds to the story a little bit more. After some more talking, I asked Dave if he could pose for some photos, and he was more than happy to. So I got a few shots around the workshop, my favourite being the ones of him next to the Bronze Age replica statue thing that he got from a real casting that he made of, you know, an old ancient statue that was also bronze. It's just really cool what he does, and it just blows my mind just thinking about it. I can't remember where the statue was from. I want to say it was Egypt, but at the same time I think that was a different conversation, because he was also telling us how I think it was his great auntie or great great auntie, someone like that, was actually involved in the process of uncovering, was it Tutankhamun's tomb? I think it was that Egyptian person. It was one of the pharaohs, and like I can't remember which one it was, but it was one that I recognized. But yeah, like that was a whole different conversation, so I could have got that mixed up. But yeah, this statue was just really cool. I also got a couple more photos of him just sat in this chair that was in the workshop, as I thought there was quite nice light. But now looking back on the photos, there's not really any context to these. He's just sat there surrounded by a bunch of clutter, so it doesn't really have any effect or any story. And I kind of wish I focused more on either the like church windows or just the work that he was doing. But I do still like these photos. After yet another long conversation just talking to Dave about stuff, we said goodbye to him, but not before asking for some more photos. I wanted to get a couple more of him outside the church, since the ones that I got right at the beginning, I done them all in like portrait orientation, and I wanted some landscape ones as well, as I've really been liking shooting in landscape recently. This was an amazing day, and it felt like we were there for only half an hour or 45 minutes or whatever, but we were actually there for almost 2 hours, and I guess time does fly when you're having fun, because it really didn't feel that long. It was kind of just like in there, nerding out about loads of stuff, learning from this guy that has had an insanely cool life, and then leaving and being like, whoa. I would really like to go back with like proper videography equipment and actually do an interview, and maybe even like try and capture the process of him making something. I'm going to contact him soon, see if I can actually set that up, because I think that would just be such a cool video to make, and I'd just love to go back and create more work with him and just hear more stories, because he is such a cool guy. I also got some more photos that day that weren't necessarily related to Dave. The first two were just from the view outside the church. It was just an insanely nice view. You walk out and you're just surrounded by just trees, and there's like a mountain off in the distance that's covered by a cloud. And there was also this giant tree stump that apparently it was like this just gigantic tree. Like he was saying just like how big it was. It was like, you know, 100 foot or so, or 200 foot, whatever, I can't remember what he said, but it was a big tree, and then it fell over last year and he had to get rid of it, which is unfortunate, but it's been there for like 100 something years. But yeah, then I also got some photos just from mine and Jen's walks around the valleys and the mountains of that day. It was just really nice, and you know, I decided to snap some more photos. Anyway, that's the end of this video. It's a bit different to what I've been creating recently. I've mainly been creating videos around gear, just because they tend to perform a little bit better. But this is a bit more similar to what I would create in the past, where I was just like, hey, I went out and took these photos, and I actually quite liked making this. So if you'd like to see more of like me creating this type of content, let me know. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.